people, and welcome to the show. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody who is supporting the show through Patreon. And if you know somebody in your life that you think would like the show and is not supporting it, please do me the great favor and the great honor of telling them about the show. They're going to get the real skinny here, and I'm going to explain what the headlines actually mean to them. That's why we named the show as we did, and that's why I'm so grateful for your support. As you can tell, I'm wearing a big, thick sweater right now because it's 53 degrees in Florida, which is really cold for us. And I don't do well with the cold. So I'm all snuggled up, and my cat Ziggy is zooming around, but there's lots to talk about, so let's get right to it. Today I want to talk a little bit about Marjorie Taylor Greene and what the main crux of the issue is with respect to her remaining in Congress. Now, to a certain extent, it is the lunacy of her beliefs, right? She believes she's deeply anti-Semitic. She's incredibly racist. She was a bullying, attacking person on the young people who survived the Parkland shooting. That has a personal impact on me. I met a lot of these young people. Parkland's about an hour and 15 minutes south of my district. I met these people, right? I spoke at multiple March for Our Lives events here in Florida. I've been very active in the gun control movement here in Florida. But it's just not that she disagreed with them. You know, she literally was on social media claiming that Parkland was a false flag and that they were all actors and getting paid, and that they weren't, none of it was real. Now, in recent days, she has claimed that she doesn't actually believe that, which makes me wonder one of two things. Did she say it just to raise money and target these kids and get people to attack them? Or did she believe it at one time and did she change her mind? Has she at any point in time apologized? All very important questions. But at this point, that's not really what's most important. The most important problem about Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she has advocated for the assassination of her colleagues. And she speaks to a group of people who have demonstrated a willingness to use violence against elected officials and to engage in sedition, to engage in attacking and killing elected officials that they don't like. And in fact, on January 6th, we saw them target the very same people that Marjorie Greene has been demonizing all this time. So let's take this out of the context of Congress for a hot minute and put it in IBM. I'm not blaming IBM, just as an example. Let's put it in the context of IBM. If you were a computer designer for IBM and you had a coworker who hated you so much that they got out on social media and told people that you should be assassinated, that they should come for you, that you are so terrible and you are so dangerous, that they would pose with a gun, an AR-15, with your picture next to them saying, "I'm coming for you," right? Now, question. Do you think that would be acceptable at IBM? Do you think that the managers and the executives at IBM would be okay with that? Probably not. But let's take it a step further. Let's explain a little bit what would happen if IBM did not fire that person immediately. Let's say that person gets to keep their job because they all of a sudden, once they realize they're in trouble, they say, "Oh, I didn't really mean it," and whatever. And then, 3 weeks later, you leave the IBM complex and you get gunned down on the way to your car. And your family decides to sue the pants off of IBM for failing to take necessary steps to protect you. Would they have a case? Hell yes. Absolutely. Because in American law, an employer has both a moral and a legal obligation to ensure that the workplace is a safe place to be. Now, that is not just about ensuring your physical safety, although it principally is about that. We have a very well-developed body of law about a hostile work environment, and that everybody has a right to be free from a hostile work environment when they go to work. So, if you were indeed at a job and one of your coworkers was constantly threatening you and telling people on social media that they should kill you and that your life was not worth living and things like that, do you think your employer would have an obligation to protect you from that person? Answer: yes, they would. And that is in all 50 states. In all 50 states, your employer would have a legal obligation to protect you. And the first thing your employer would do is fire that individual and remove them from the premises. They would probably bar them from ever coming back to the premises, right? They would help you in making sure that your ingress and egress from the building or from your workplace is safe. They'd probably even help you get in contact with authorities and get a temporary restraining order filed on this individual. Employers that failed to take those steps end up in hot water. There was this term back in the maybe 90s, early 80s and 90s, calling going postal. Some of you may be too young to remember this, but for a while there was a spate of shootings at the U.S. Postal Service because employees got so angry they came back and they would shoot up their coworkers. And in all of those situations, the employers ended up on the hook for not taking appropriate measures to protect the employees. Why do you think Mitch McConnell and them were working so hard to protect employers from being sued if their employees got COVID when they were demanded to go back to work? Why do you think he was working so hard to protect employers? Because the law would default to the assumption that the employer has a responsibility to protect the employees from COVID. Just like it has a responsibility to protect employees from racism, just like it has a responsibility to protect employees from nutter, crazy, racist, on their mind coworkers. So, who exactly, in this circumstance with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's her employer? It's a good question, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, she's employed, philosophically speaking, by the people who elected her, but that's not really who has control over her person when she's in the Capitol building, right? There's somebody who actually pays her salary. That is not the people of her district. That is the people of the United States of America. And when it comes to the physical safety of the Capitol, there's Capitol Police, right? And then there's the entities that control the Capitol Police, which include the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and others, right? They control the Capitol Police. So for all intents and purposes in this circumstance, they are Marjorie Taylor Greene's employer. And more importantly, they are the people responsible for keeping AOC and Ayanna Pressley and Speaker Pelosi and all the people that were on the hit list safe. That is their job. They are the employer in this circumstance. So whether Marjorie Taylor Greene is kicked out of Congress or not, it is my opinion that is the responsibility of the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and all persons who have control of the Capitol Police and the physical safety of members of Congress when they are at work to bar Marjorie Greene from the premises. Whether or not she is a member of Congress, she should never be able to set foot in the Capitol building again, because she has posed an imminent and direct threat to her colleagues and has yet to renounce those words. And it is the job of the members of Congress to ensure that nobody fears for their safety simply showing up to work. I don't know about you, but I could never comfortably work side by side with someone who was advocating for my assassination, especially given who she was advocating to. A band of people who are well armed, totally disloyal to our country, and willing to storm the Capitol. They've proven themselves willing to act on these things. So, would I feel comfortable going to work with her? Hell no. And we wouldn't expect any other employee in any other workplace in America to do so. I think it's a bridge too far to ask Ayanna Pressley, to ask Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria, to ask them to show up every day to work with a woman like her on the premises. I think Congress owes it to their members to keep their members safe and to ensure that they don't work in a hostile work environment, to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene from the premises of Congress and make her do all her work remotely. She should never have the grace or the privilege of ever setting foot in the Capitol again. That's my opinion, and I think it's well-founded in the law. If you like what you just heard, you can find out so much more and hear so much more on my Patreon channel, patreon.com/Pam Keith FL. That's where you hear the rest of this discussion, and there's lots more to share.